Porsche has been dominating the LMP1 class for years, with countless race wins, tons of brand loyalty, and amazing endurance on a handful of their cars. They've become a staple name. Anytime you watch the World Endurance Championship or WEC, Porsche was on top. But all good things come to an end. Mercedes stopped dominating F1. The Ford GT got discontinued, and yes, I'm still salty about that. And Porsche was about to retire the legendary 919. With the 919 being retired, they wanted to give it the send-off it deserves, so they threw the rulebook out the window, made one of their fastest cars. To know about the 919 Hybrid Evo, you have to know about the original. The original 919 won Le Mans 3 times. All the mechanics probably said, "Another day, another victory for the RG," with how dominant they were. It went head-to-head with the best. Porsche had to compete with Toyota, Audi, and Nissan. Well, Nissan was never really competitive, but it was still there. The 919 was a staple prototype car. If I asked you to envision a prototype car, did this come to mind? No, it was a Ferrari? Okay. When Porsche entered Formula E in 2018, they discontinued the 919 and left Le Mans, leaving a power void that Toyota filled. But that's for another video. Porsche decided to give the 919 an unreal send-off by making the 919 Evo Hybrid. They had a small time to get it right and didn't have a large budget, but still made something that was stupidly fast. They knew when you get into the car, the world melts, because there's a point at 7,000 RPM.
7,000 RPM where everything fades. The machine becomes weightless, just disappears. And all that's left is a body moving through space and time. 7,000 RPM. That's where you meet it. You feel it coming, creeps up on you close in your ear. Ask you a question. The only question that matters. Who are you?
I may or may not have rewatched a handful of movies and played a handful of games. I watched Rush, Gran Turismo 7, Ford versus Ferrari. They played Gran Turismo 7 and WRC and bought BeamNG afterwards, but that's something else. After the clip from one of the best movies ever, let's get back to the 919 Hybrid Evo. Insert other fancy words here. Wait, I wasn't supposed to say that. I'm amazing at reading my own script, guys. I'm stupendous. They removed the fuel restrictions from the engine because it wasn't endurance based anymore. They were going to have the fastest car around 1 lap. They didn't need to conserve fuel for 24 hours. They also increased the amount of power the electric motors could put out. That would also help their 0 to 60 time because it's hybrid. They increased the recoverable engine and energy so their hybrid could charge faster. They did quite the weight saving by removing these pesky little devices like headlights, windshield wipers, air conditioning, and then a handful of other electrical devices that don't make the car a coffin on wheels. By doing all that, they removed 86 precious pounds. Porsche, if you want a light driver, I could remove those 86 pounds quite easily, you know. Just hire me, I'm good, trust. They increased how aerodynamical the car is and increased the downforce by 53%. I can't tell you what those numbers mean, but I can tell you that means it went around turns significantly faster. They increased it even more, but they could have increased it even more. But the tires and suspensions just couldn't handle it. You have to think of it like this. The soft tires are the grippiest ones, but they also can't take as much weight as the hard ones. So when you put 3-4 tons of force on them, they tend to puncture or pop. You can replicate this in simulators like WRC or BeamNG by making a car jump and then landing on the front right or front left tire. Those tires aren't made to take all that weight. so they end up popping or puncturing. If I can replicate this, I'll throw it up there. On the suspension side, the car has to not be able to touch the tire so it doesn't cut it. This causes the suspension to be really stiff and not be able to keep the car up. They also ended up increasing the aerodynamic efficiency by 66%, so the car was zooming. Finally, after all of that, they increased the rear wing size to make it bigger, because size matters sometimes. They made a wider front diffuser, a stiff side skirt, and a DRS or drag reduction system is even faster, which means the back wing just opens up, causing all the air to rush through it and decrease drag. The 919 Evo broke so many records. It, at the time, had the fastest lap around Spa before Lewis Hamilton broke that record. Its time was a 1 minute 41.77 seconds. Porsche ran around the notorious Nürburgring, which is most definitely not a circle. They managed to do the 12-mile loop, which is almost as big as your mom, in 5 minutes 19 seconds, almost a minute faster than the previous time, which Porsche also set 30 years before it being 6 minutes 11 seconds. So Porsche broke their own record. An astonishing time considering most sports cars like the 911 GT3 RS, specifically the 992.1 version, get around in 6 minutes 45 seconds. They also went around Brands Hatch and Laguna Seca, but they didn't beat those times because of some circumstances with their tires on the car. If you want to know more about that, watch this video over here. They wouldn't have beaten any of these records without the legendary driver Neo Gianni, who is an absolute legend, and I implore you to look him up. After all that, Porsche dominated Le Mans and then had lap records with their 919, but unfortunately left the sport in 2017 because they wanted to go pursue Formula E and then increase their GT3 records. Thankfully, Porsche returned to Le Mans in 2023 for their 100th anniversary. Unfortunately, they didn't win that race, but they look strong for the 2024 season. That's just my Porsche fanness, hoping that they end up doing good. That was the story of the 919 Evo Hybrid.
Last little note here, I left the wheel I was buying up to chance, and it ended up picking the most expensive wheel on the chart, so I'll have that in like 2 months, so it's gonna suck.